Hey everyone, you're tuning in to Deeper Grooves, Musicians on Music, hosted by Cliff Beach and sponsored by California Soul Music record label. We are tickled to be able to speak with a blues legend, nominated for a Blues Music Award for Best Acoustic Artist this year, in very great company with people like Kev Mo and luminaries within the field. Super stoked to have Catfish Keith on, talking about his new album, Blues at Midnight. Please help me welcome Catfish. Hello, Catfish.
Yeah, this is Cliff.
It's Cliff. How are you?
Good, brother. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. So happy to have you on today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's chat about your latest album, Blues at Midnight. You're currently nominated for a Blues Music Award, and you've been nominated several times before for Best Acoustic Blues Album. And what was your process in making this particular record?
Well, it was very interesting. Well, for one thing, I should say the nomination is for Acoustic Blues Artist this time. And
Gotcha.
So they have Acoustic Blues Album and the Acoustic Blues Artist. And they put me in Artist this time. And I'm tickled because it's along with a lot of my buddies and heroes, Kev Mo and Dom Flemons and Doug McLeod and Harrison Kennedy. So it's a real honor to be in the same category with those guys. So I was very tickled to hear that. But Blues at Midnight, that brings together songs from all of my long career. I decided it was time to put together pieces that were all original songs. See, throughout my career, I've put out many albums, but usually it would be several of my versions of different old blues and roots, kind of cool, weird songs that I'd find along the way, and also a few originals sprinkled in. But this is a departure because it's the first time all original pieces have been in one album, and they come from songs I first recorded, way back at the beginning of my career. And so we're going back to, I first started recording, my first album was in 1985 on the Kicking Mule label. And then most of the albums after that, all but one, have been on our own Fishtail Records label. But the songs, and there were a lot to choose from, but I just chose original pieces that kind of flowed together, also contrasted in sounds of guitars. What surprised me about it was that it came together and it sounds like I could have recorded it, or I could have written the songs all within the same period of time. So in other words, it has a kind of seamless quality of sounding like it could be right now. So,
that's great.
Yeah. So I was tickled with how I still sound like me, 35 or 40 years on. It still pretty much has the same feel and message. And my blues songs are really of the genre, so they have a timeless quality to them. So they could all be 100 years old, just like the songs that I adopt and change to my own style. So I was tickled about how it came out and how much people seem to enjoy the album. So that was really cool.
It is really cool. And I think blues is a timeless art form and timeless music. It's been around. It's so ingratiated in the American idiom of music, the American Songbook. So many great artists like yourself. And it's great to hear people really doing that. We had Bobby Rush on, this season, and we got to talk to him about his acoustic stuff too, and
he's cool.
I think he is almost up to 400 albums now.
Wow, I got a ways to go to catch up with Bobby Rush. Wow, he's amazing.
But speaking of your previous album, so you have been nominated for the Blues Music Awards, I believe 4 other times. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Over the long time span.
and so what albums or what categories were you nominated for those other ones? If we could just talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, well, they were always up until this album, or not this album, this year of the Blues Awards. It had always been in Acoustic Blues Album category. And that really is the format that I always strived to get as far into acoustic blues as I possibly could. That's really where my music is at. You know, I've tried a little bit playing, I have some electric guitars and I've sat in with bands and I tried a little trio for a little while, but my heart and soul has always been in the cool, quirky, weird, ancient sounding, beautiful, old time country blues. So in other words, that category fits me very well. Acoustic blues album, and they've all been acoustic blues albums. So
excellent. And in 2019, you also won the Blues Blast Music Award for Best Acoustic Blues Album. What album was that for? And what was that like?
That was called Reefer Hound: Viper Songs Revisited, and that was a unique album in my life. It took all the songs that I had, not all of them, but quite a few that I had that were out of the tradition of singing about reefer and dope. And so there was a whole group of songs that I loved and that came from the old time tradition. People like, Cab Calloway and Jack Teagarden and Fats Waller and Jazz Gillum, and everybody had a good reefer song. And it just seemed like over the years, on all my albums, not all of them, but most of them, I have a song or two from that genre, if you want to call it that. And I put them together into a record, and it was a compilation from all these albums. And it was another time when it sounded like I recorded everything all at once, but the songs went together. Well, there were some original songs too that fit into the reefer song category, like Put on a Buzz. And I was tickled how it came out, and people enjoyed it. And of course it came at a time when marijuana is becoming more and more legal. I know in California it is. And I think a lot of us old hippies identified with the Reefer Songs album.
Definitely. I'm sure many people can relate. There's a huge cannabis culture now, and all that stuff. So I'm glad that people are finding the recreational and the medical benefits to that.
Yeah.
So I read that The Guardian described you as a solo revelation who is breaking new ground for blues. What new ground do you feel you're breaking with each new release?
Well, the way I learn music and the way I've developed my style, I definitely came up with my own way of playing. People say they can recognize me after 2 or 3 seconds on the guitar and voice. So I think I've made, instead of just trying to sound exactly like Blind Blake or Son House or any of the masters, I always took a song and my process would be to internalize it. In other words, listen to it until it just is preying on my mind and then dig down deep and work on making my own version of the song. And sometimes it might result in a whole new song, but it would definitely result in making a unique arrangement. And I think my way of playing guitar is unique to other people playing in the country blues style. There have been other influences that have come in that add to the flavor of my voices on guitars. So between all those things, coming up with a unique personal style. I mean, everybody that picks up a guitar has their own style, whether they develop it or not. But I think that's one of the most wonderful qualities about guitar is that it gets reinvented over and over. And hopefully I had my own little way of making my own sounds that people enjoyed and thought was something different.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely hear in your music that it's authentic and it sounds like you. We've listened to a lot of your back catalog and new album to prepare, and so yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing, is that there's always a new approach. There's always something new, or bringing back old and making it new again. And so I think
thank you.
Blues is great for that.
Yeah.
What is your origin story? I know that you grew up in East Chicago, Indiana. I had to look up my states. I do not know my states and cities, and so I had to make sure it's not Illinois. And you were first inspired by blues music that you heard on the radio. At that time, you would have heard songs by Buddy Guy and Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
Really into Son House. Do you consider these like your core influences, and do you draw inspiration from other stuff as well?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of kinds of music, I was born in East Chicago, Indiana, and that's an old steel mill town, and my first memories were there. It's kind of a town that's beyond its prime, but what was cool about it, and what I love about where I'm from, is that there was like every ethnic group in the world was right there, and that we all kind of shared hearing music and culture and food from everywhere. In other words, there were people from every part of Eastern Europe. There were African Americans, Latin Americans, all piled in together there in East Chicago. So then we moved, when I was about 6, I moved to Davenport, Iowa, and that's on the Mississippi River, part of the Quad Cities, another kind of working class town. There was also a mix of cultures there. So, and my entrance into the music, I always heard blues when I was a kid, but I was always especially attracted to the acoustic guitar and the way it sounded, and playing the acoustic guitar as a fun thing to do was really part of growing up. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, I started going to a summer camp, a YMCA summer camp called Camp Abe Lincoln. And some of the counselors would play guitars, and we'd sing around the campfire. We'd sing Kumbaya and Barges and Leaving on a Jet Plane and all this kind of sort of folk music, I suppose. And then when I went to Catholic church, and we had in Davenport, it was called hippie mass or folk mass. And Father Grubb had a cool mass where there were a bunch of people playing guitar and singing for the parts of the mass, like when we sang Amen and Lamb of God and all that. So just the people around playing the acoustic guitar was just a kind of a fun thing that was very accessible to me. And I started playing in the church group, and I started playing, I got a guitar when I was about 11, and took lessons from the friend of the neighbors. He was a World War II veteran named Alvin Brown, and he taught me by the Oahu Publishing Company method. And it was, I still have all those books of sheet music from it. And I think he must have had leftover music from 30 or 40 years ago, because they were old songs even then in the 70s. Songs like Fascination and Let Me Call You Sweetheart and Your Cheating Heart and La Cucaracha and a bunch of kind of corny old songs that I didn't really appreciate them at the time. And I took lessons for about a year and quit, because I really wasn't applying myself. I was kind of bored with it. But then in about a year or two, I guess I'd be 13 or 14, a friend of mine was playing guitar at a party, and she was just strumming away, and she was just making songs up. And it was like, you can make songs up? It was a revelation, kind of, Yeah. And just the idea that you can just create something spontaneously And it was really kind of an eye opener, and it made me get my guitar out again. And then I started to teach myself guitar. And that's when I really started to have progress with developing my own style of guitar. I had chord books and records, and I would teach myself songs, but I started listening more and more, and I found that I was really intrigued by the sound of the fingerpick guitar. And finger picking, you can play bass, melody, counterpoint, rhythm, all these things, one person playing the guitar at the same time. And that was, that made me kind of flip my wig. I was really over the moon when I started to finger pick. Within a few months, I could get my fingers going, and I started to discover more and more artists that played in that way, like Paul Simon and Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Leo Kottke. And then I was a curious kid as well. I would go to the public library and check out folk music records. And there were blues records around the house, too, that my mom had got. Like we had one from Leadbelly and one from Odetta, and Joni Mitchell's first record, a Johnny Cash record. And so I was hearing all these sounds, and I would listen to a lot of music. And I started just teaching myself, and also playing in these little groups. There were a lot of revelations along the way. And one, after I was playing for a while, I guess I had been teaching myself for a year or two, and developing very quickly on the guitar. And probably about the time I was 15 or 16, I had kind of a stoned revelation that I wanted to be a guitar player. This is what I wanted to devote my life to. This was the magic thing. And I mean, true magic, So I really made it my goal for what I thought, would be my life, which did end up being the full force of my whole life. 40 years later, I'm saying this, but the power of the music and the way I loved the music was that one person made all that sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean with that. Yeah. And I'm a keyboard player and a vocalist, and so I definitely know the power of just one man, one woman, one mic, just getting out your ideas.
Yeah. And what I guess what I liked about it was that I didn't need anyone else to make, the whole kind of orchestra or band all on my own with that style. So that, I think that aspect of it really appealed to me as well, that I could all by myself make this whole sort of universe and world of music. And then I started gigging when I was, I guess, a junior in high school, maybe. I'd get gigs at little restaurants, and I even had college concerts. I did my first real concert. It was at Black Hawk College in Moline, Illinois. And this would probably be in 1978 or 79. It just, it kind of brought everything together. And I didn't really start out just with the focus on country blues. That kind of developed the more folk music and different kinds of music I learned. So that took a little time, but it came in really strong because I wondered, well, where does, Paul Simon, who's he influenced by, and who did Leo Kottke like, and who did John Fahey listen to? And when I started, and I was a very nerdy kid, I liked to study, and read books, and both of my parents are teachers, so I guess that came naturally to me, just study on things. And but I'd find out who my heroes were, and that pushed me more to the country blues. And once I got that first Son House record, man, that knocked me out. That sort of drunken, deep, heartfelt, right on the edge of of death. Kind of.
Definitely.
Yeah, just the most powerful solo expression you could come up with. And I was, it wasn't like when I first heard Sun House, I said, man, I love this. It was more like, geez, this is kind of weird. I'm kind of disturbed by this. And then I kept coming back to it over and over. I had to learn how to play bottleneck guitar, and it made me want to get a National. So I just kept finding more and more in this early blues that really appealed to me. So I would collect records and collect songs. A big way I would do it back then, with the technology of the day, back then I had a big old boom box, and it took about 8 D-sized batteries. It was a big thing. So kind of, it's like a suitcase. It's big. But I had the ability to, on a cassette tape, record anything I heard. So if someone would play a record that I liked, I'd say, can I tape that on my boom box? And so I would go to record collectors that I knew had cool blues records. I would record songs on cassette at their house, or songs I got from the library. I would also record that. And friends that could play a good tune, I'd have them play it for me. So I was a song collector at an early age. And that's really been the process I've used my whole life. And I'll get songs that I love and just listen to them till they're right in my soul, and try to come up with my own version of playing the songs. It's still just as exciting, and I love doing that. And I keep learning songs just the way I always did. It's just they're starting to pile up now.
Well, that's good. There's no shortage of content. There's no shortage of songs, especially in that songbook. But right. besides having your own songs and your own style, you also have and run your own record label, Fishtail Records, which you did mention. And so what made you want to start your own thing?
Well, it goes back when I did my first record. I was young. I was 21, 22 when I recorded my first album, which was called Catfish Blues. And it was on the Kicking Mule Records label. And at that time, the label isn't going now, but it was a very important label. A lot of my heroes were on there. They were also fingerstyle, a lot of fingerstyle guitarists. Stephen Grossman and Ed Denson started the label, and it really had a lot of great finger picking and flat picking, kind of groundbreaking folk and blues music artists on there. And I was over the moon to get on that label myself, because so many of my heroes were on there. But you kind of quickly learn how the record industry, especially small labels, work. And when I got together with my wife, Penny, we've been married 32 years, and we married in 1988. And I already had my first album out. She was working hard at her job and was starting to kind of burn out on it. She was a psychiatric social worker with Nancy Andreasen at the University of Iowa. They studied schizophrenia. So it was a really intense job for her. And so after she was there about 5 years, she was starting to kind of burn out from it. But she thought, well, let's try to, why don't we both put our efforts into your music? So we started Fishtail Records, and it was kind of, that was 1990 when we put out the first release, which was first on cassette in 1990. It was called Pepper in My Shoe, which would have been my second album. But it was at the beginning of the sort of DIY movement, really. So we were inspired by some friends that very successfully put out their own releases on their own label and did as good or better than they would have signing up for one of these independent labels. And we had that kind of spirit of wanting to do it ourselves. So we started Fishtail Records, and it has been very good for us. It's you have complete artistic freedom, and since I always had the vision of how I wanted the albums to look and sound and feel, it was a really good move for us. And Penny loved, she's the president of the label, and she's my manager and sound engineer. She does sound at shows and sells merchandise. And really, we do all the things together. We always traveled together. So it was a perfect choice for us to try Fishtail Records as well as touring the world together. So, yeah, here we are with our 19th release. And we plan on keeping going. It's a beautiful way to do things. And, I mean, you do have to do everything yourself, but it's a great way to go and really enjoy it.
Excellent. I also saw that you were inducted into the Iowa Blues Hall of Fame. How does it feel to have that type of recognition as an artist?
Oh, it was really cool. That from Blues Society based in Des Moines, Iowa. They recognize every year kind of artists that have contributed. Yeah, just it always makes your heart feel good to have that recognition, because we've been working hard at it for a long, long time. And, it's just been my life's passion ever since I was a kid, really, to present this music and take it out to the world, and to have this group in our home state recognize us like this, the Iowa Blues Hall of Fame. That was really cool.
That was really cool. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So what's next musically for you after 19? What's the 20th?
Well, I keep, all along the way, kind of at all times, I always find songs I love by other artists that I'm working on my versions of. And also all along the way, I am inspired by loads of artists. Like recently, I've been listening to the Carter Family a lot, and I wrote a song, kind of in that style. And I just keep the kind of continuum of music going. So I'm accumulating songs for my next record, which I hope to record in the spring or summer. And so I want to put out an all-new release for this summer or fall. And every year in our touring, every year except this strange pandemic year, we would always go and do a big tour in the UK and Ireland and Europe. Of course, 2020, and we'll see what happens in 2021. But yeah, the pandemic really froze up everything for live music because of the social distancing and self-quarantining and the whole effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. It really totally monkey wrenched the entire music industry. So people are making efforts in a lot of different ways to get the music out there, but we fully intend to resume touring the world when the world rights itself a little bit. Everybody gets vaccinated and they open venues up and we go back to regular life. We fully intend to go back to our usual life of, doing many gigs every year. And that always includes going to UK and Europe in the fall and doing gigs, festivals, and concerts across the U.S. And we've played in Canada. And this time of year, we would often live in Mexico. We did that for the last 18 years down in Puerto Escondido. And that was kind of where we would not be freezing to death. Right now, we're in our home in Iowa, and it was about 0 degrees last night. So this is a different year for us, but we're staying home until the world rights itself. that people can go out again. And, but we continue to do things. We continue to, like I put out Blues at Midnight because I thought, well, why wait to put out a record, even though we're not able to sell them at concerts like we normally would, but we certainly were able to get, really nice airplay. The record did well, like on the Living Blues charts. We found out today that it was also in the top 25 for Living Blues for January. So for the last 3 months, November, December, January, it did very well on blues radio shows around the world. So that was a good thing to do to keep the music out there. And we're going to try to up our game with keeping doing things like podcasts and, Zoom shows. And if we can perfect the live streaming, there were a lot of things that we're working on improving that. So we might be able to do it easily. But
yeah. A lot of artists are learning that stuff now.
Yeah, it's I'm kind of slow at that, but we keep working at all those things. I'm certainly more devoted to being a musician than ever, despite pandemics. So we're going to keep going, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you get to this long of a career, you got to keep going. There's no stopping now.
I don't know how to do
a long time ago.
I don't know how to do anything else. So,
so we do have 2 rapid fire questions as we start to wrap up that we ask all of our guests. The first one is, what advice would you give a newbie in music starting out today?
A newbie. Well, I guess the devotion should always be to never stop developing your craft. Like music it's a craft. So, I mean, you do need to be talented and you do need to have a vision, but you also need to work relentlessly at the music. So those should always be the first things you do. So if you can be that devoted to making the music, the rest should probably come. But do that first, and then you can go on to trying to book gigs and make records, but just working on the music is the first fundamental thing. And it's a thing, if you're a true musician, that's what you love the most anyway. So
yes,
that's what I would recommend.
The craft, which is the old school, but yes, it needs to be done. The fundamentals, the scales, how you do it, learning your history of your heroes. Yeah,
keep learning songs, keep digging down and finding great songs to play, and keep singing and playing your instrument, keep defining and redefining and working on those songs. And that's the first thing, really.
And Catfish, what do you want your musical legacy to be? And I know you've got another 19, 20 albums under your belt at least, and you'll keep going. After speaking to Bobby Rush at 87.
Bobby Rush, yeah.
What
just getting started?
Yeah, when it's all said and done, what would you want people to say if they could say one thing about your music?
Well, I would hope that they would just enjoy what I've been able to contribute to country blues and folk music and roots music, and that it was a sound that they thought was distinctive and enjoyed. I just hope people would keep enjoying it forever and ever, and I hope to keep playing forever and ever, and so that's what I hope for the future.
Excellent. Where can people find you online?
Oh, my website is www.catfishkeith.com. That's CATFISH Keith KEITH.com. And that's kind of the home base for everything. But we also have loads of YouTube videos that my wife Penny made that Ms. Pillbox hat. That's MS Pill, Pill, Box, BOXHAT at YouTube. And we're on Facebook too, where we have my friend page, Catfish Keith. There's my musician band page, Catfish Keith. Penny Cahill, that's my wife. Fishtail Records is our label. So all those things. And there's also a page called Why I Love National Guitars, which is very interesting about the history of a whole lot of country blues and Hawaiian and jazz music that is really kind of the background of all of what I do, and features many of my heroes. And a lot of them, of course, are from the first generation of blues. So it goes way back to the beginning of recorded blues to the 1920s and 30s. So those are the places you can find me and the music. And sure has been a pleasure, Cliff. All right, man.
Yes, it's been a pleasure for us too. Where, if people wanted to listen to your catalog, what's like a go-to, or where should they go first to listen?
Oh, any of my albums. But I like Blues at Midnight because it's a bunch of my original songs. If you love reefer songs, Reefer Hound, I have one that's all gospel pieces. It's called A True Friend is Hard to Find. There's a live album called Live at the Half Moon. And really all of my studio albums along the way, they were kind of the best of what I was doing at that particular moment. So I'm proud of all of them.
Excellent. I think they are great. I would definitely recommend people going into the latest one that is nominated, Blues at Midnight. Hopefully everybody will get to listen to that. It's doing well with the Living Blues and everything. And we wish you just the most success, and have had a pleasure talking with you today.
Oh, you too, Cliff. All right.
We'll circle back to you when everything is said and done and out, so you can have links to everything, and we'll be keeping up with your career. All
right, my brother. Appreciate it, Cliff.
Appreciate you too, Catfish. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Okay, take care, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening in once again to Deeper Grooves, Musicians on Music, hosted by Cliff Beach and sponsored by California Soul Music Record Label. We had a blast and are tickled to have on Catfish Keith talking about his latest album, Blues at Midnight, that's out on his label, Fishtail Records. Go check it out. It's amazing. I'd like to also thank our engineer, Tim Hall, and 1192 Studios for mixing and mastering this recording today. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, you can check us out online at www.californiasoulmusic.com/Deeper Grooves or anchor.fm/Deeper Grooves. Until then, keep the blues alive. Keep it rocking. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.